It's Saturday, February 7th. As frustrating as it is that we're still under occupation, there has been another wave of what I will call good news for our situation, and that's the air being let out of the tires of the tech stock market. 2025 from the inside of a big tech company was all AI hype with no brakes. The term bubble was thrown around quite a bit in conversation with other coworkers, but leadership was only concerned about leveraging the hype to sell cloud computing services. In fact, from the inside of a big tech corporation, leadership is only concerned about money, full stop. Now, the way that cloud computing services work is you basically pay a company that owns a bunch of computers to use them to compute something for you. Now, compute in that sense has a lot of different meanings, so let's walk through an example of what that can mean with video. So we live in a work where there is a lot of video being taken from sources like body cameras or flock traffic cameras or ring security cameras that are hooked into systems that compute it a whole bunch of times without you having to have a computer to do that computing. That video, especially when big tech corporations get away with things like legislating more body cameras as a solution to law enforcement abuses, is not free to process, to analyze, or to distribute. So walking through that, when a body camera, for example, uploads footage of whatever a police officer saw when recording it, there are probably steps to basically have a computer watch that footage and then do things like facial recognition and calling on other computer programs to have that computer check each face in that scanned video, and then do things like check those faces against a database to determine whose face it is, and then have another application check for that person who we think the face is against things like whether that person has a criminal record or what their employment history looks like, or whether that person ever voiced their support on a social media platform for a Democratic candidate. All right, that last one exists, to my knowledge, squarely within the realm of possibility, but it is entirely technically possible. Sentiment analysis of social media is something that AI has made a lot easier. A computer can go look at your publicly facing Instagram and Facebook and determine how far on the spectrum you are of likely to support the MAGA regime or not. And one of the more disturbing and dystopian things about living in the year of our Lord 2026 is that all of these points of data processing is generally being contracted through a big tech company and monetized, probably for an amount that most people wouldn't consider fair or reasonable, because these contracts with tech company, especially if they're coming in through government or law enforcement contracts, are probably being charged like 10 times at least what they're worth. So one of the benefits of the environment that we find ourselves in right now is that people who benefit from that sort of data processing are the big tech companies. And they, even the non-big tech corporations in Minnesota, have not exactly been supportive of the people on the ground here in Minneapolis. In fact, again, their silence, which I have found completely unsurprising, has been deafening. Because their voices and actions of corporations exist squarely to make their stock prices go up. So the best news on that front in the past month is that they haven't been going up. So let's take a look at some of the big tech companies that I'm paying attention to try to get a feel for, are we seeing movement in a promising direction in the economy, which to me right now is it needs to crash. First, Amazon. You know them because they just paid a $70 million bribe that they are going to write off as a tax write-off, ultimately making the taxpayer pay it in the form of the Melania documentary that was directed by an Epstein-affiliated director, and because of two-day shipping. But the business world knows that their main business is cloud computing in the form of AWS or Amazon Web Services. They're one of the main players in that data center buildouts, and as you can see here, it took until February, but we are finally seeing some promising signs of that stock price slipping. Microsoft, increasingly out of touch, the Epstein headlines around Bill Gates probably aren't helping here. But make no mistake, he has already sold his stake and isn't directly running the Microslop show anymore. And the people who are seem to be helplessly out of touch. Do you remember Microsoft Office? It's not called that anymore. It was formally changed in the past year to Microsoft Copilot Application Suite, which is named after their highly contentious rollout of AI features that nobody really wants. But they, like other big tech companies, are pushing AI integration without user having any say or asking for it because it pushes more cloud computing. And all of these companies want to make you use their cloud computers as much as possible because that's what gets them money. Oracle, pretty drastic hit here, down from over 200 to 142 just in the last month. Oracle has long operated like a paper mill in the tech space, which is to say that they buy up virgin forest real estate just to throw every source of carbon on that land into their wood chipper of a business. In the last few years, they've been controversially going all in on data center buildouts at the expense of putting any effort into talent retention or even ensuring that their employees have the most basic of cost of living adjustments to even partially offset the rapidly rising cost of inflation and consumer goods that they are complicit in causing. And the last company that we'll look at here is Palantir, evil in 4 letters. This is a company that builds dossiers of every person, leverages services to scrape up their private data, then sells access to that data to whoever will pay for it. This is a company that is proud of selling services that kill people and markets itself as such. Minnesota is one of the largest and well-known live test sites for Palantir right now because ICE uses them to hunt down minorities. And you know who else is a really big and well-known test site? Palestine, where Israel has been conducting a decades-long occupation that has recently ramped up so that they can test their newest and most lethal and dehumanizing tools. So the last time I talked to my manager this last week, she recounted how headlines outlining tough times for corporate finance were reverberating through the office, including rumors that everybody in the company that we are from that was acquired may soon be finding themselves looking for a new job. I responded by predicting that really 2 things need to happen for us to really start seeing the other end of this whole situation that not only Minnesota, but the entire United States finds itself in right now. Those 2 things, the stock market needs to crash, and there need to be a few front-page obituaries. So it's at least promising to note that we are making some progress on one of those fronts.